So, like a month ago, I posted this thing saying I'm gonna do predictions for 2024. And now, it's like a month into 2024. So I'm a bit late. I'm still gonna get to it. Still gonna do it today. But with a twist. Last year, I got like half of the things I predicted wrong. And the stuff I got right was like common sense, you know? Like I said, Forspoken was gonna fail. Everyone could see that coming. So today, I'm still gonna do stuff that's pretty common sense, but I'm also gonna include some of the fans, some of your predictions as well. And I'm gonna make fun of them mostly. No, I'm gonna give my takes on those as well. Should be a good time, should be fun, whatever. But before we get into all that, I have to thank but before we get into all of that, today, I wanna thank I want to thank today's sponsor. At Traveler of the Stars says, it's super basic, but I'm pretty darn confident Nintendo will announce and most likely release their next console in 2024. I'm leaning towards its release being after the summer, but before the typical holiday season. Yeah, so I think Nintendo will announce its new hardware in March 2024. You know, like everybody kind of sees this coming. It would not make a ton of sense for Nintendo to wait until 2025 to release new hardware. People aren't buying Switches as much as they used to. I remember the original Nintendo NX rumor cycle, and I can tell you that right now we are pretty late in that cycle. Whatever hardware is coming, it's coming soon. This isn't gonna be something that you wait 2 or 3 years for, because otherwise we wouldn't know as much about this thing as we do. What we can pretty much rule out is any possibility of like a November announcement followed by a spring release that the original Nintendo Switch had. People forget that by the time this happened, Nintendo had pretty much no skin in the console game. So announcing anything before the holiday season didn't risk cannibalizing Wii U sales. Just a few 3DS sales, and even then, there is such a significant price difference between those things. I doubt they really cared. You would not want to see Nintendo announce a Switch 2 in November, which would just convince a lot of parents to not buy the hardware for their kids during the holiday season. I've heard 10 million units is planned for the initial launch, and maybe that'd be good to split up over September, October, and November. You know, you got to get sales for the holiday season, but you also want to have an initial launch. You don't want hardcore fans competing with holiday shoppers and the inevitable scalpers. Now, I think they are going to announce the thing pretty soon. Pretty soon, probably March, just based on their fiscal financial quarter reports and how they do things. I don't know if they're gonna do a June reveal. That would be cool. That'd be pretty cool to have like a Summer Games Fest reveal, but who knows? I know some people say maybe 2025, maybe later based on some previous statements by Nintendo, but like it's gonna be 2024. The company needs to continue growth, and sales for the Switch are at least stagnating. You know, they're not continuing to grow. So I'm expecting an announcement around March 2024, especially considering all the rumors and hype and leaks that have been, you know, happening. As for release date, I'm gonna say September or October. Price tag, $399. The 8-inch screen LCD display, I'm perfectly fine with. I don't think it needs to be OLED, especially if it means a $500 device. This is gonna be bigger than the Switch OLED in terms of like form factor. I don't think it's gonna fit in your pocket, but I don't think that's the intended market anymore for the Switch, you know? I don't think there's a reason to try to predict specs. I've already done a Nintendo Switch 2 video, and I'll probably do another one later if I need to. As for launch lineup, my predictions is new 3D Mario game and Animal Crossing. They need heavy hitters. They can't just coast off of, I don't know. Metroid Prime 4 is a name that's thrown around a lot as like a cross-gen Breath of the Wild sort of thing, a real system seller, but a lot of Nintendo fans really overestimate the power of the Metroid brand. It is not a massive seller for Nintendo. It doesn't sell that well at all, to be honest. Yeah, you're not gonna see Metroid Prime 4 be the big system seller because it wouldn't sell that many systems. Anybody interested in Metroid Prime 4 is already gonna own a Switch 2. They need something big. You're not gonna get a Legend of Zelda because you just got one of those. A spin-off Legend of Zelda isn't gonna move that many units. A new Mario Kart seems a little premature unless it's something just that's a Mario Kart, you know, collection. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Deluxe. And all that really leaves us with is 3D Mario and Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is now an S-tier franchise considering the sales of the last entry. So yeah, I absolutely expect these two games probably to be at launch. Sony's PlayStation 5 Pro is one of the worst kept secrets in gaming, and I expect it will launch in November. Normally, I'd like to say that Sony will launch this alongside a big title, you know, a Killzone, or even a small title like a Twisted Metal, but that's all unlikely. Sony's first-party studios are kind of in trouble right now. It seems like Sony bet big on live services, and that has not gone particularly well for them, leading to the cancellation of several major projects. I don't think it's necessary that Sony launches new hardware with a first-party title. I would just expect, you know, something to drum up some hype, maybe shift a few units, and really just show off the capabilities of this new hardware. I'm gonna probably plan another PS5 Pro video later on, but in terms of actual predictions, I don't think this is gonna be that big of a deal of a launch. I don't think it's something that's gonna warrant a first-party release, and at best, you might get another Astro game, you know? Maybe some AA title from Housemarque, maybe. I think Microsoft's 2024 will be slow. The first party lineup is not going to shift units because it hasn't shifted units yet. That is something a conventional console manufacturer would look at with a lot of concern. The fact that the disparity between PS5 and Series console sales are so severe at this point in the generation, that is not good. The Series S is outselling the Series X by a big margin, but the PS5 is outselling the Series S by a big margin, meaning that very few people actually own a Series X in the, out of anybody. I thought last year that Starfield was going to be a make it or break it moment for the Xbox franchise, unless they got Activision, which they got Activision. I know Phil Spencer has said before that even if Starfield was a game of the generation, it wouldn't shift the console war, that PlayStation users have their games, their friends, their purchases, and all their information on that platform. And at best, Xbox would always be a secondary console for those users. But Starfield wasn't game of the generation. It wasn't even really game of the year contender. In fact, it was received quite poorly. And even if you like it, which I was fine with parts of it, we gotta admit, it certainly has not moved too many units within the Xbox ecosystem, which is something I think the company probably should want or need. Even if you get a Banjo 3E this year, if you get Gears of War, Unreal Engine 5 remakes at the end of the year, considering what we know about the Xbox first-party lineup this year, it's not that big. And it's not something that's going to resonate with people outside the Xbox ecosystem already. Now, I don't expect we're going to be getting Activision titles on Game Pass all at once. I don't think it's going to be like March 1st and then every Activision game ever made just drops on the platform. A lot of early Activision games would still have a lot of licensing issues. And it'd also not make a ton of sense to just drop everything at once. Instead, maybe have a Spyro 1 month, a Crash the next month, try to keep people subscribing. I do not expect any new Xbox hardware this year. At best, a controller. I know that in the leaks, there was the Xbox Series S, not really slim, but like 1 terabyte model, and then the Xbox Series X revision, the all-digital revision, the adorably all-digital revision. But I do think that these documents would have changed. If you didn't see my video on the Xbox 720 leak, yeah, stuff changes, you know? We don't know when these documents were made, but it probably was a little bit ago. I would not be surprised if all of these plans are not coming to fruition. A new controller makes sense. That makes sense with Microsoft's plans going forward, but it doesn't seem like it's gonna be a controller that's gonna be all that great. Like, you're not getting the DualSense features that I've been really wanting Xbox to capitalize on for a while. This is probably gonna be more about an inexpensive gamepad in case they want to bundle it with something like the cloud-based Project Keystone, if that ever comes to fruition in the future. No Pro consoles, obviously. Even in the leaks, these new consoles were not Pro. But I just wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft was canceling all of this due to those poor Xbox sales figures. Because again, there just isn't really that much demand for these consoles that makes a revision necessary unless they're cutting down costs significantly. which doesn't really seem like they are. Between the two options of a new Series S and a new Series X, I think a new Series S makes a lot more sense. Either way, I don't expect 2024 to be a massive year for Xbox, but maybe we get some insight into what their plans are for the next generation. Or the end of this one, at least. I am not expecting any major acquisitions this year. Considering the mass layoffs that have just happened in early 2024 and throughout 2023, I don't think it'd be a good, look from a PR standpoint for any massive publisher to just start acquiring other studios and then proceeding to lay them off. Whatever acquisition war was happening between the publishers seems to have at least cooled down with the Activision acquisition, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Nintendo will actually buy Ubisoft. I think 2023 was a shocking year for analysts and for a lot of corporations. The best-selling game of the year was not Call of Duty or Madden or Starfield. It was Hogwarts Legacy, likely due to a reverse boycott fueled on social media, but still, Baldur's Gate 3 was not expected to be the massive hit of the year, yet it was. Now, there's a lot of possible reasons and takeaways for all of this that I'll let you come to your own conclusions. But I do think that 2024 is going to be a year more focused on AA and indie titles as opposed to AAAs. Just based on how game development works, we have to assume that a lot of the 2023 titles, those were games that started development around 2019. These were games that entered development before global events. And so everything that would be coming in 2024 would be more of games that was developed after that or went into production during that, which isn't a lot of games. How many games were probably greenlit during 2020? Not many, I imagine. As for just franchises in general, we already know what the next Call of Duty is, and it seems like it should be at least more of a game than the last one. Halo saw so many ups and downs, and while that game has finally reached a point where its fans seem happy, we have to admit it was too little too late. And 343 confirmed that it has stopped the Halo seasons, is moving on to a new sort of update structure, while a lot of the team is moving on to what they've confirmed to be yet another Halo game. The Battle Royale turned spin-off game by Certain Affinity has already been canceled. Every year I tend to make Pokemon predictions, but this year I'm not. I have a video planned about the whole Pal World Pokemon thing that I'm gonna let that do the talking. One of the other predictions, not really predictions, just things that are happening in 2024 is Jim Ryan, head of PlayStation, is leaving PlayStation. Surprisingly, this should have been one of the largest stories of 2023. Whenever a studio, corporate division head, whatever, leaves, that fundamentally changes how these corporations do business, the culture and everything in between. What games will get greenlit, what projects take priority. And I know a lot of people didn't really care. Jim Ryan has not gotten a lot of positive love in the PlayStation community over the past few years, but it's important to recognize that whoever comes next, they might be very different. They could be obsessed with backwards compatibility, make an effort to get the licenses of every PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 game on PlayStation Now, or whatever they call it now. Or they could look at the stagnating nature of console sales over the past 20 years and decide that the future of the PlayStation brand is mobile devices in the PC. Anything could happen, and until the successor is named in office, we don't know. At Interstellar Star Sailor says, I think 343 will still be supporting Halo Infinite's multiplayer well into 2025. We might see a separate new single-player spin-off game announced that doesn't replace Infinite, but rather coexists alongside it. I'm mixed on this, to be completely honest. Of course, this was announced after your comment was made, but we do know that Halo's seasons are coming to an end now. But support will continue, almost definitely into 2025. It's important to remember that Halo Infinite, by the end of 2024, will have been around for as long as Halo 3 was before Reach got released. Whatever comes next Well, should it be single player or should it be multiplayer? I think making a multiplayer game would normally make sense, a successor to Halo Infinite considering the low player counts. But I gotta wonder, is it even worth it? At this point, Halo is like the 4th or 5th most popular FPS in Xbox's ecosystem, and it's at least the 3rd or 4th most popular multiplayer FPS. If the Quake rumors are true, it pushes Halo even further down the totem pole. And I gotta say, I don't know if it makes sense to make another Halo multiplayer game. A single player game probably makes the most sense in my opinion. But even then, I think it'd have to be a reboot of some sort, you know? I think the Halo franchise is getting ready for a reboot. At Red Army 1917 says, with Windows 10 support coming to an end next year. In an effort to beat back Microsoft's control over the PC gaming space, Valve will release their flavor of Linux, SteamOS, for desktop clients. So that is my predictions for 2024. At the end of this year, I'll take a look back at what I said in this video and probably make fun of me for saying the things I did. Why is the robot in a pool now?